Hello again, humans. It is I, Jim the Ape. And yesterday, in relation to the day I'm recording this, I signed into my Twitter account and was flabbergasted by a pair of trending hashtags. One was Give Captain America a Boyfriend, and the other was Give Iron Man a Boyfriend. Apparently, the former was more popular, but they were both being tweeted about in what I can only assume was a campaign of fan fiction writers who saw Captain America's Civil War and just didn't think it was progressive enough. Now, I get that Steve Rogers and James Buchanan Barnes have a strong bond as childhood friends, and I understand that the more they show that friendship on screen, the more likely it is to be misinterpreted as latent homosexual feelings for one another. But that's the thing that these social justice warriors don't seem to understand. There are other forms of love that exist and don't involve a sexual component. They just can't fathom that familial love can exist between the sisters in Frozen, which I only saw once and will never willingly watch again because it's not my cup of tea, or between the brothers in Supernatural, a show that used to be really good but now is kind of hit and miss, or between the Lannisters on Game of Thrones. Okay, that last one is different, but they also can't seem to grasp that sometimes people have close friends that they're extremely comfortable around and will joke around with each other, but nevertheless, they have no intention of having sex with that person. So, I got into a back and forth on Twitter with a self-proclaimed misandrist who I won't name because I don't want her to get any shit from my audience, which she could then blame on me specifically, or the patriarchy more generally. We did eventually find common ground in disliking what Michael Bay has done to the Transformers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles franchises, so I don't think she deserves that. But she did bring up some common feminist talking points that I wanted to address in relation to this topic. The first is that white straight dudes have been pandered to forever, which I disagree with, namely because market forces allow everyone to vote with their wallet and financially support the art that already exists that they enjoy the most. Sometimes a movie fails because people think it sucks, or sometimes not enough people go to see it despite those who do mostly liking it, i.e. Dredd. Conversely, sometimes a movie is successful because it appeals to a wide range of people and is well made enough that they go back to see it multiple times, or sometimes it's successful despite people saying it's poorly made schlock, like the Michael Bay Transformers movies. The point is, you have the power to affect the success of movies by paying to go see them or staying home and refusing to go see them. It may not be much on the individual level, but on a wide scale, you can sort of see how many people at least thought the movie was worth their money by looking at the box office numbers. And that's just what you can do if you can't create art or write stories of your own. Granted, it's easier said than done when you're talking about big budget blockbuster movies that require studio backing to get made, but at least in the sense that you can pick up a computer, open a word processor, and start writing your own stories, technically anyone is capable of creating their own characters. And that is something that I encourage people to do, rather than to take characters that already exist and have been written about for 75 years or more and completely change everything about them just to pander to SJWs and political correctness. That doesn't mean I'm against reimagining characters or doing Elseworld stories, but when a character is being presented in some kind of definitive fashion, like in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it should be the best and most true to the source material version of that character. She also said there hasn't been a person of color-led movie yet until Black Panther comes out, which is technically incorrect on 2 counts. The first may be because of Twitter's character limits, but there have been tons of movies with non-white people in the lead roles, especially if you count foreign films. But chances are she meant specifically comic book movies. Well, there have been a few of those as well. First example that comes to mind would be the Blade trilogy, ranging from the first and best installment to the really dumb one where Dominic Purcell played Dracula and Ryan Reynolds was trying out for the role of Deadpool, only minus all the likability. Also, I hate to remind you, but they made a movie about the DC superhero Steel, starring Shaquille O'Neal. It was terrible, but it did star a black lead. And that's not including all the great supporting characters that have been, are being, and will be played by non-white people. In the MCU, there's Rhodey, Falcon, and Black Panther. There's also Wally West on The Flash. We're getting Cyborg in the DC film universe, like it or not. And those are just off the top of my head. But back to the hashtag, there's room for LGBT storylines if they fit, and if they aren't forced. For example, the police captain on The Flash is gay, and they don't make a big deal out of it. Also, the character of Curtis on Arrow is a gay black man who is married, and they also don't make a big deal out of that. It's just there. It doesn't get in the way of the story, and it works just fine. But when you've already had several movies, and the characters already had 2 female love interests, and there's literally been no indication that they're anything but the 96% of the population that is heterosexual, it just feels contrived. And when something like that happens, the obvious conclusion to come to is that it was done simply to pander to social justice warriors and slacktivists who would rather just arbitrarily change the gender, race, or sexual orientation of existing characters rather than create new ones. That's not to say there aren't characters that I could see being bisexual. For example, Deadpool is the kind of character that I totally would buy as not giving a fuck, and basically willing to have sex with anything that moves and is willing. And I believe the filmmakers even said that he's pansexual, or something like that. Honestly, the only indication we get of that in the theatrical version of the film is that came out wrong, or did it line, and a few other of the film's many sexual jokes. But I wouldn't be against him being portrayed as bisexual or whatever, because that just fits the character much better. Now, I hate to piss off any Cap fans that may be watching, but Steve Rogers is kind of a bland stereotype. Now, his motivations can still be interesting, and you can still understand his thought process as a character, but on the surface, he's a good old American Christian boy who's white, milquetoast, and patriotic. He's kind of like Marvel's version of Superman, character-wise. Powers-wise, Superman kicks everyone's ass, but they're both the kind of traditional American values archetype. And I hate to say it, but being gay is not in any way traditional. It's been maligned for thousands of years in society, and it's not exactly helpful to procreation. So it's an evolutionary anomaly. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just never going to be the majority because of biological imperatives. So I think I've rambled on long enough, and hopefully I've covered why I think this hashtag campaign and the general idea of arbitrarily changing a character's gender, race, or sexual orientation are both retarded. As always, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I always appreciate it. If you didn't, feel free to give it a thumbs down. I don't care, but please keep your Cap/Iron Man fan art to yourself. I have no interest in it. You can let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. And of course, if you like my videos, subscribe to support my channel. I'll catch you next time. Stay great, apes.